We've been saying this since the first day of the war in Gaza. A life is a life. I know this because I held in my arms the families of hostages I met in Tel Aviv and in Paris. I'm thinking of the mother of Eata David, a hostage who was famished and displayed. I'm thinking of Nimrod Cohen, a 19-year-old hostage whose father I just met. I also know this because I was at the bedside of the Palestinian victims of Israeli military operations, refugees in Al Arish, women and children. I will never forget the way they looked at me. I know this because I met young people from Gaza who we are hosting in France. I'm thinking of Rida Baroud, who today continues to bear witness to the distress of her loved ones in Gaza. A life is a life. We are duty-bound, all of us, to protect each other. This duty is indivisible, just as our common humanity is indivisible. There is a solution, a way of breaking the cycle of war and destruction. It lies in the recognition of the other, of his and her legitimacy, humanity, and dignity. We must reopen our eyes and see human faces there where war has deposited the mask of the enemy or the marks of a target. We must recognize that Palestinians and Israelis are living in twin solitude. The solitude of the Israelis following of the 7th of October 2023 and the solitude of Palestinians. Palestinians at their wits' end in the face of this ceaseless war. The time has come because the worst could still come to pass. The sacrifice of more civilians, the expulsion of the people of Gaza to Egypt, the annexation of the West Bank, the death of hostages detained by Hamas, or facts on the ground which could irreversibly change the situation there on the ground. This is why, this is the very reason that today, here in this chamber, we must pave the way for peace, because since July of last year, developments have accelerated. And at this point, we have reason to fear that the Abraham Accords, the Camp David Accords, could be called into question by Israel, and that peace would become impossible for a long time yet in the Middle East. It thus falls to us this historic responsibility. We must do everything within our power to preserve the very possibility of a two-state solution. Israel and Palestine living side by side in peace and security. The time has come. This is why, true to the historic commitment of my country to the Middle East, to peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians, this is why I declare that today France recognizes the state of Palestine.
Cette reconnaissance.
This recognition is a way of affirming that the Palestinian people is not a people too many. On the contrary, this is a people who never says goodbye to anything, as Mahmoud Darwish said. A people with a strong history, roots, and dignity. The recognition of the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people takes nothing away from the rights of the people of Israel, who France supported from day one, and to the respect of which it is staunchly committed. This is why we're so convinced that this recognition is the only solution that will allow for Israel to live in peace. France has never wavered standing by Israel's side, even when its security was at stake, including when there were Iranian airstrikes. This recognition of the state of Palestine is a defeat for Hamas, just like for all those who foment anti-Semitism, nurture anti-Zionist obsessions, and who want the destruction of the state of Israel. This recognition by France goes hand in hand with others which will be announced today, and I thank them: Andorra, Australia, Belgium, Canada, Luxembourg, Malta, Monaco, Portugal, the United Kingdom, San Marino. They are here today. They answered our call issued in July and took the responsible choice, the necessary choice, the choice to opt for peace. Spain, Ireland, Norway, and Sweden are also going down the same path, and many others did before us too. This recognition paves the way for useful negotiations, useful for Israelis and Palestinians. This path is a path towards a peace and security plan for all. France and Saudi Arabia submitted this plan to this assembly, and it adopted it by a large majority. It carries our common ambition to break the spiral of violence and to change the situation on the ground. We managed to take a step towards one another, to move away from our habitual stances and to set concrete objectives. We must now set in motion a cycle of peace that meets the needs of all parties. The top priority of this peace and security plan, and it's very urgent, that is to ensure the release of 48 hostages and put an end to military operations throughout the territory of Gaza. I commend the efforts undertaken by Qatar, Egypt, and the US to achieve this. I ask Israel to do nothing more that would thwart these efforts coming to fruition. Hamas was vanquished on the military front as we neutralized its leaders and decision makers. It must also be vanquished politically to be truly dismantled. As soon as a ceasefire is agreed, we must mount a massive collective effort to provide assistance to the people of Gaza. I'd like to thank Jordan for their commitment and recall Israel's absolute obligation, that is to facilitate humanitarian access to Gaza to assist its population, which has lost everything. The second priority is to stabilize and to rebuild Gaza. A transition administration incorporating the Palestinian Authority, as well as the young people of Palestine, together with security forces, the establishment of which we will accelerate, will have the monopoly over security in Gaza. It will implement the dismantlement and disarmament of Hamas. And this with the support of international partners and the necessary means required for this difficult mission. France stands ready to contribute to an international stabilization mission, as well as to support, together with our European partners, the establishment and equipping of Palestinian security forces. As soon as negotiations permit, the Security Council could decide to deploy a civilian and security support mission, liaising with the Palestinian authorities and with the consent of the Israeli authorities. Furthermore, it'll be up to the state of Palestine to give hope to its people, tested by years of violence and occupation, division and negligence. It will be up to the state of Palestine to give its people a framework for democratic expression, a framework that's been renewed and that is secure. President Mahmoud Abbas committed to this before Prince Mohammed bin Salman and myself. He forcefully condemned the terrorist attacks committed on the 7th of October 2023. He reiterated his commitment to disarming Hamas and committed to excluding Hamas from future governance in Gaza, as well as from future governance throughout Palestinian territory. He reaffirmed his commitment to combating hate speech and promised an in-depth overhaul of Palestinian governance. France will pay close attention to the full implementation of all of the commitments made to us. This renewed Palestinian Authority is a necessary prerequisite for the success of the indispensable negotiations we'll need to resume to come to an agreement on each of the final status issues. It's within this framework that I will be able to decide to open an embassy to the state of Palestine as soon as all of the hostages detained in Gaza have been freed and a ceasefire has been established.
So neutrality is not an option. I'm sorry.